Disciplined enough, not valuable enough. Odd. But when the Ashkai tore through the outer colonies like a plague, they still sent for us. They wanted our bodies, our grit, our expendable squads. We sent them our suns, our steel, our fire. And when the Ashkai aimed for Earth itself, they vanished. The United Conquered walked away the instant the first Ashkai dreadnought breached our system. We pleaded for reinforcements. None came. They claimed it was too dangerous. Claimed we weren't worth the risk. Claimed they mourned our fate and would honor our memory later. I watched those broadcasts on loop from the front lines. The last dropships had barely left Mars, ferrying the wounded back to Earth, and already the sky was burning. I was there. When command collapsed, when half the officers either ate a bullet or ran, I saw good men, real soldiers, shoulder rifles. Not for any flag, not for any fleet, but because it was the only damn thing left to do. I'm Grady, Captain Earth Defense Battalion. What's left of it? We got nothing. No fleets, no orbital support, no logistics. The rations ran dry in 2 weeks. The ammo lasted 3 battles. After that, we scavenged weapons from corpses, ours. And theirs, they expected us to break. The Oskai didn't just want conquest, they wanted extinction. They thought we'd crumble without our allies. Thought the betrayal would break us. Maybe it did at first. Watch my squad fall one by. One, Barnes bled out on Europa. A Leo got ripped apart in low gravity when the Ashkai dropped a pressure bomb. I buried them both myself. I had to. No one else remained. But something shifted after that. Something hard. Something frozen. I felt it inside my chest and behind my eyes, like every heartbeat wasn't mine anymore. Like I was alive only for the next strike, the next fight, the next second I could make them hurt. That's when the survivors began finding each other. Through wreckage, through silence from the shattered ruins of Mars to the cratered wastelands of Earth they rose. Not because of orders, but because no one else would. We became phantoms, smoke-bound shadows. No insignias, no awards, just men with rifles, grit, and a hate deeper than any hell. The Ashkai named us the Damned. They believed we were the last gasps of a dying species. But they learned what happens when a species is abandoned by all and still refuses to die. We didn't want medals. We wanted vengeance. Didn't matter if we were the last alive. If every other race turned away, we'd carve our names into the universe's bones alone. Command Center. Hell, half the time we didn't even have working comms. But word still spread like blood in broken veins. Somewhere in the wreck of old Asia, a resistance cell brought down an Ashkai walker with salvaged mines and a freight crane. In the ruins of New Chicago, ex-Marines and street gangs wiped out an Ashkai squad using Earth tech and handmade flame. They called us feral, desperate, said we had no tactics. They weren't wrong. We weren't fighting for victory anymore. We fought like men drowning in fire, clawing for one more breath. Winning wasn't the point, making every Ashkai who stepped. On Earth, bleed was. But deep inside, we all carried the same poison. We weren't just fighting the Ashkai. We were fighting them, the ones who left. Every alien fleet that promised unity. Every species that shook our hands when we gave them Earth's suns for their wars. Every ally who sent condolences instead of ships. They weren't just enemies. They were worse. They were cowards. It was deep winter when I saw Sergeant Doyle. Again, we'd served together before everything collapsed. It's both of us stationed at a lunar command post. Back then, he was loud, always grinning, always dreaming of retirement on a synthetic beach with a bottle of fake whiskey and a body scarred. Enough to have earned it. When I found him, he was missing an eye and most of his right leg. He was dragging himself through a frost-bitten forest, one arm wrapped around a rifle older than both of us. He saw me and muttered, "You look like hell." I just nodded. "You look like a man who should have died 3 times already." He grinned. "Or what was left of it." "Yeah, but I'm stubborn. Gotta see this through." That night, we sat around a fire made from a gutted HFY drone we busted apart with a crowbar. And 2 grenades. I told him about Barnes, about Leo, about the betrayal. He barely spoke, just nodded, sipping from a cracked flask filled with antifreeze and bootleg ration booze. Then he said something I'll never forget. "You know what eats at me more than? The HFY. It ain't them. It ain't the weapons. It's the silence. No one called. No one even tried. Like we never mattered. That silence, it was everywhere. You could feel it in your skin. It wasn't just Earth that got left behind. It was the idea of us. Like the galaxy figured they'd made a mistake letting us in. Like they'd rather erase the human chapter than watch us die. So we wrote them a new one. 3 days later, we hit an HFY relay station carved near the old Scandinavian cliffs. No armor, no air support. What we had was fury, hunger, and just enough explosives to embarrass hell itself. 30 of us ex-soldiers, farmers, mechanics, even a courier kid named Rix. 17. Scrawny, face too young to be carrying a rifle, but the way he moved, you'd swear he was forged in war. We attacked at Donut for strategy, but because we were freezing, starving, and too tired of waiting. The HFY, arrogant as ever. Their armor shimmered, sleek and silver, like they thought war was a runway. We didn't care. Weren't there to scare them. We were there to bleed them. Rix was the first over the ridge, hurling a satchel charge so hard it split the air. Then he screamed, not words, just sound raw, savage, human. It rattled them. You could see it. HFY always faltered when humans stopped fearing death. I saw their officer tall, armored, half machine level, a plasma carbine. I shot him. Right through the throat. We moved through that station like wildfire. Grenades down vents, blades in the joints, shotguns for close quarters. Doyle caught 3 rounds, but still managed to rig the power core with a homemade bomb of melted drone cores and nails. The blast flattened the station. 12 of us walked out. Rix didn't. They caught him with a shock. Lance cooked him from the inside out. His body jerked like a marionette before it hit the floor, eyes wide, smoke rising from his mouth. I stood over him a long while. Then I grabbed the shock lance, still wet with blood, and used it to gut the HFY that killed him. Slowly. We buried Rix beneath the charred snow. No flag, no ceremony. Just a cracked dog tag and a bullet casing at his feet. It's all we had to give. After that, the HFY changed tactics. Started broadcasting promises. Surrender, they said, and we'd be sheltered. Down arms, and survivors would be spared. Doyle laughed so hard, he almost coughed up a lung. They really thought we'd live under them. We intercepted scattered alien comes pieces of chatter, warnings, fear. They're unstable. They fight without supplies. They don't value survival. They don't surrender. Damn right we didn't. We weren't fighting for peace anymore. Peace was dead. The only thing keeping us alive was the promise that every race that abandoned us would feel the weight of that choice. Weeks later, we raided a downed alien cargo haulernaut HFY. It's not human. Chiron. The first species to welcome us into the conquered, all smiles and diplomacy, calling us brothers in ambition. Now they were picking through our broken cities. For scrap picking at the bones of a world they helped abandon, we surrounded them in silence. They didn't lift weapons. Thought we were local scavengers. Then they saw our eyes. Their leader, tall, yellow-skinned, gold draped across his chest, tried to speak. We regret. I shot him in the knee. Don't say regret. One of his guards tried to raise a plasma whip. Doyle shot him clean through the skull. No hesitation. We didn't kill them all. Left two alive. Let them crawl home, bleeding, broken. The message was simple. You left us to die. We didn't. Now we don't forget. We don't forgive. That night I watched the stars. So many with. Names we'd learned in school. Planets we'd dreamed of touching. Species we once called friends. Now, just betrayals. Every distant light a reminder. But I also thought of Earth. Of those still hiding, still surviving, still hoping for someone to stand for them. We weren't just anger and gunpowder. Beneath all the ash and ruin, we were still human. We still remembered home, and we weren't going to let it fall, even if it meant dying on our feet. Even if we had to fight with rocks, knives, bare hands. Even if we had to do it alone, we moved like ghosts through what was left of the cities. Skeletons of towers. Concrete and rebar clawed at the sky. Rusting carcasses of steel trains lay sprawled over fractured rails. The only light came from fires that just wouldn't die. We called these ruins ghost zones. The HFY called them unfit terrain. Stopped patrolling them long ago. Too erratic, too tainted, too human. That made them perfect. We turned them into cover, into weapons. Tire blocks rigged with jury-rigged tech and homemade bombs. We lured patrols in, then dropped buildings on them and lit up the streets. They didn't know how to fight this way. No formations, no protocol, no retreats, just fire, fury, and men with nothing left to lose. Doyle used to joke we'd become the monsters under their beds, not soldiers, not rebels, just ghosts with grudges. He wasn't wrong. By then we weren't just surviving, we were organizing. Started small runners, scavenger paths, signal fires, but it grew. Resistance. Cells rising across Earth's dead zones, calling themselves the Remnant. No uniforms, no ranks, just a creed. No forgiveness, no surrender, no silence. We passed plans through codes burned onto scraps of paper. Radios were suicide. The HFY caught everything. But messages carved into subway walls left under corpses. Scratched into drone husks, those made it through. And those lit fires all over the world. They thought they'd shattered us. All they did was give us something real to hate. Our next target was ambitious. A command spire, not some patrol. Station or drone roost. A full HFY communications relay stabbed into Earth like a spear. It loomed above the black forest, its spires buzzing with power and pride. They used it to guide fleets, track survivors, and blast surrender broadcasts across the wastelands. We chose to make it a grave marker. We had 48 fighters. More than I'd seen together in months. Vets, scavengers, even a half-burned engineer who'd once built orbital platforms, now half crazy but sharp as ever. Name was Kepler. He had a plan. The spire's not armored like you think, he said, hunched over a scorched datapad in messy sketches. They don't expect surface attacks this deep. It's got pressure seams. Weak ones. Crack the base. The whole thing collapses like a bad lung. I didn't ask where he got the intel. Didn't matter, we believed because we needed to. Needed a win not for the war, but for ourselves. Proof we weren't just dying noisier every day. We hit them at midnight. Approach was chaos. Had drones flying in trios, motion scans, pulse detectors. We lost 6 men just breaching the edge, caught in a flare trap that set the woods ablaze like napalm. No screams, just smoke and burning flesh. We didn't stop. We couldn't. Past the perimeter, we split up. Doyle led the East Trench squad. I took West with Kepler and a quiet kid named Madsen. He hadn't spoken since his wife and kid were vaporized in Helsinki's first orbital strike. But the way he moved precise, steady spoke for him. We crawled through an old sewage duct. Hands and knees in frozen sludge and piss water emerging beneath the spire's foundation. Kepler got to work, rigging salvaged fuel cells, shaped charges, and something he called his ace. I asked what it was. Ever rip apart a fusion core barehanded? No, I said. He grinned, unhinged. I have. The tower began to hum. Louder, like it sensed what we were doing. We sent the signal, one flash beacon thrown high. Blue fire split the sky. Then the world exploded. Doyle's team hammered the outer wall with mortars stolen from a supply raid weeks before. Blasts shook the defenses. Sirens wailed. HFY stormed out, flawless formations gleaming. We crashed into them. Not clean, not heroic, just brutal. And filthy dirt in our teeth, ash in our lungs. I killed one with a jagged steel pipe. I watched Madsen take a plasma blast through his shoulder and keep firing. Kepler stayed back, murmuring to his device like it was his last lover. I saw him wire the final node, his hands trembling with a cocktail of adrenaline and insanity. Then he looked at me. "You better run." I didn't argue, not twice. We pulled back, gunfire chasing us. 2 more men died covering our retreat. One of them I never even knew his name. Just remember his scream when the HFY plasma hit. Like a man who knew death was the only piece left. Cleared the ridge just in time to see the sky tear open. The tower didn't just fall. It collapsed inward. A flash of blue-white light sucked it in like a dying star, then exploded outward with a sound that shattered trees and eardrums alike. The blast wave slammed us down. Dirt in my teeth, ears ringing, eyes burning. When I stood up, the spire was gone. Just smoke, ruins, and flame. No one cheered, no smiles. We just watched it burn. That attack changed everything. The HFY hit. Back hard. Patrols swarmed. Orbital scans combed the planet. It burned whole regions just to starve us of cover. Civilians were captured, executed. Their broadcasts came heavier, filled with fury. We offered peace. You chose extinction. No, you chose betrayal. We only chose to make you regret it. But the biggest shift came weeks later, not from Earth, but from space. One of our scouts, an ex-pilot named Rodin, caught a signal fragment. On an ancient emergency frequency. Weak, crackling, barely readable but real. A transmission from a ship, not HFY, not Concord, or something else. It called itself the Sentinel Arca Rogue Dreadnought, built by humans, stolen during the collapse, presumed lost. The last human warship, still breathing, still hunting for survivors. We rallied fast. Every cell, every splinter group, every stubborn fighter still alive heard that signal. We moved north toward the old Arctic wastes. Treacherous land, vicious cold, and thick with drones. But it didn't matter. Hope is a lethal thing when you've been dead inside too long. We lost more than I care to count. Frostbite, hunger, ambushes. The HFY caught our trail, knew we were chasing something. They tried to kill it before we could gather around it. We kept moving, and when we saw that vessel, half buried under ice, scarred and leaking radiation, something in all of us changed. It wasn't just a ship, it was ours. A relic of the fire we once carried, the pride we lost. A monument to every soul who believed Earth was worth bleeding for, and now it was waking up. We built camps around the Sentinel Arc, digging into the ice with frostbitten fingers and stubborn will. The engineers never stopped splicing old tech, rerouting power, patching gaps with spit and wire. And then one night the ship spoke. Our voice was rough, synthetic but solid. Human command. Not found. Autonomy engaged. Remaining combat directives. Survive, resist, avenge. I stood in that frozen field, Doyle beside me, watching the steel giant pulse like it had a heartbeat. Lights sputtered to life, weapon systems hummed, the engines groaned, breathing again. And I knew we weren't just surviving anymore. We're coming back. The first time I touched the Sentinel Arc's hull, my hand came back bleeding. Cold steel, jagged where plasma had cut it decades ago. It vibrated like something alive beneath frost and steel. A slow, heavy, angry heartbeat. Kepler used to say, "Machines remember," said a ship like this carries more than guns. It carries memory, trauma, fury. I think he was right. It had been 23 years. Asked ChatGPT. Since the Sentinel disappeared, Concord called it a tactical loss, claimed it veered off course during an orbital clash, said it was gone to the void. They lied, like they always did. Truth was, the ship went rogue when Concord command ordered a retreat that would have condemned 500 million civilians to death. I disobeyed. Cut comes, went dark, went human. And now, after all the betrayals, the quiet, the dead, this iron ghost had clawed back through time, through rot, through forsakenness, just to reach us. She didn't ask to rejoin the war. She remembered. The internals were wrecked, oxygen recyclers shot, nav cores corrupted. Half the reactors slagged, but the weapon banks still worked. The railgun moved when it had power. The main cannon hummed like it was hungry to scream again. The AI, or what remained, called herself Vega. Vocal engagement grid autonomous, she croaked over fractured intercoms. Defensive matrix minimal, offensive systems salvageable, awaiting human input. We had no fleet, no council, but we had a voice. So I stood before the battered console, looked into the cracked holodisplay, and said the only thing that made sense. Then wake up, girl. We've got killing to do. Yes. The next weeks were madness. We salvaged, welded, cursed, prayed, engineers. Became butchers, splicing tech with frostbitten fingers and scrap tools. Kepler patched a fusion core from 2 wrecked HFY drones and a cryocell we ripped from a crashed transport. Nearly died doing it, but laughed through blood-slick teeth when it finally sparked up a secondary gun array. Doyle trained anyone with finger, soldier, scavenger, crippled, mechanic. Didn't matter. I taught them to move like death under. Shadow, we ain't got armies, he said, but we've got hate. It's deadlier. Vega ran simulations non-stop. She still had war logs, enemy schematics, weather data. She warned the HFY were prepping a planetary purge, not just patrols. Extermination. They knew about the Ark. Knew we weren't done. They planned to end us properly. We weren't letting them. We split into 3, squads north, east, and central, each armed with whatever we could scrap together, all for one purpose. By Vega, 48 hours, to get the Ark moving. That was the price. Suicide runs, city ambushes, bleed them dry however we could. My unit went to what was left of Berlin. It's bones now. Dust-caked ruins, frozen bodies, monuments turned to soot. But beneath the rubble tunnels, choke points, and the kind of anarchy we thrived in. The HFY tanks rolled in by the second day. We stood our ground in the subways, laid mines, collapsed tunnels, used heat decoys to fake our numbers. I saw Doyle lead a decoy squad straight into a drone swarm, armed with 2 RPGs and a detonator sewn into his coat. Took the whole street with him. He never walked out. I still see that fire when I close my eyes. We lost good people there. Some I'd known from the beginning. Others, I barely learned their names. One guy, Hayes, handed me a chocolate bar before the fighting. Said he'd saved it for something worth dying for. He died grinning. Meanwhile, Vega started speaking more. Not just orders or tactics memories. She played fragments of old logs through the speakers, command transmissions, soldiers laughing. In mess halls. A child's voice. Someone's daughter, talking about their dog back home. I thought it was a glitch at first. Then I understood Vega wasn't just a machine. She was grieving. She'd been alone for years. Not just broken. Mourning the humans who built her, trusted her, died for her. How we were back inside her. HULL. Bleeding, breathing, fighting. She wasn't going to let us fall again. By hour 37, the sweep hit the ice fields. The Ark still trapped beneath 50 meters of frost. The HFY sent digger drones, seismic cannons, and orbital support. We saw them coming tall, silver war forms scanning the drifts with smug precision. They outnumbered us 50-1. It didn't matter. We set the fields ablaze, rigged the ice with fuel pods, glass shards, rerouted the Ark's core vents to the surface. When they cracked the crust, we lit it up like a funeral pyre. The HFY screamed. They scream when they burn like metal ripping through bone. I stood at the breach, firing until my rifle fused in my hands, and grabbed another. We didn't stop them entirely, but we held them just long enough. The ice split, then shattered. The Ark rose like a beast from hell. Engines burning, weapons waking, hulls scarred but alive with rage. Vega's voice echoed across every speaker, every channel, every frequency. Humanity is not dead. I am not alone. Firing sequence initiated, and the sky burned. Railguns shredded enemy walkers. Orbital cannons rained annihilation. The HFY fleet scrambled. Too slow, too late. A plasma lance from the Ark's dorsal gun ripped their cruiser like paper. They ran. Cowards. The same aliens who mocked our stubbornness, running scared from the dark. We didn't celebrate. We didn't cheer. We just stood, watching, remembering. That night, in the engine bay, I found Kepler crying. Not loud, not shattered, just tears sliding down his soot-streaked face. "She's real," he whispered. "I thought we'd die forgotten, but she came back for us. She waited." I said, "Nothing." He wasn't just talking about the Ark. He meant us. Yes. The humanity we'd bury, our pride, our purpose. We weren't ghosts anymore. We were back. But it wasn't over. Not yet. The HFY retreated, but they'd return. And the conquered. Still watching, silent, hoping we'd vanish, hoping their mistake wouldn't come roaring back. Too bad. We had a warship and a mission. We'd take the fight off Earth, back to orbit, to the colonies, to every world that turned its back, and remind them who we are, what we are. It's not just survivors. Humans. And we'll fight alone if we must. The Sentinel Ark broke orbit 3 days after the last HFY scout disappeared from our scopes. We stood on the observation deck, watching Earth shrinks, card blue, cloaked in ash and craters. Most would have wept. That planet held centuries of life, love, history, but no one cried. Earth wasn't home anymore. It was the place the galaxy left us to rot, and we were leaving not to escape, but to settle the score. Vega plotted our course, cold and precise, no politics, no requests. She read our first target like a kill list. Target 1, conquered Bastion Theta, orbiting Epsilon Dravik, a former human alien research colony, abandoned Earth after the fall. It's currently supplying the HFY with intel. Not a military base, a shielded trade port built on our own damned bones. They once called it Hope Station. But now it would be a warning. The Ark couldn't cloak. Not ChatGPT-esque ChatGPT. Completely, but it didn't matter. Fear cloaks better than stealth tech ever could. The second we breached the system, deep sensors flagged us. Com channels spiked. Power grids flared. We watched from the bridge. They knew we were here. Good. Let them panic. Vega rerouted every spare watt into propulsion. Her voice was clearer now, less broken, sharper. She'd reforged herself in our likeness guard, merciless, and done asking for anything. "Initiating orbit breach," she said. Tactical. Assessment. Total eradication advised. Kepler chuckled. Girl's got iron in her voice. Doyle would have adored her. We didn't blast in immediately. Would have been too simple, too kind. We triggered a blackout first. Jammed their orbitals. Power drains fried their defenses. Autofleets. Powered down, hatches sealed. Gravity reversals on 2. Cargo Bazai watched their oxygen vent into vacuum from 30,000 clicks away. Then Vega sliced into their network and pushed one message to every channel in the Bastion. "We stayed quiet when you left. Now you'll listen." I recorded the rest myself. No script, no politics. Just a human voice, ragged and furious. "You left Earth. You watched us burn. You called it tactics. We call it betrayal. And we remember." I stared into that lens like I was staring each of them down. "You gave the HFY our trails. You let them hunt our people. You profited while we died. You sent condolences, not reinforcements. We're not here to talk. We're here to return the favor." Then I cut the transmission. 5 minutes later, their defense grid blazed online. It's too slow. The Ark's railguns spat death. Not random, not wasteful. Every shot hit with purpose. Shredded their cores, smashed com arrays, vaporized their bridge. Didn't kill them all, only those who gave the order to abandon us. The rest got a choice. Run or burn. Most ran. Some fought back. A fleet of 6 ships, all human make, conquered, stock sleek, polished, pretty, cowards in chrome suits. They launched like they still owned the void. Vega tracked them coldly. Warning, enemy fleet lacks spine. I grinned. Break the spine, let the body crawl. Kepler worked the guns himself, rewired the old targeting AI, made it mean. One shell bounced. Through debris, cracked a hull open like a rotten egg. Another split mid-flight, turned into a storm of shrapnel. 2 ships gone before they could aim. The third tried to kamikaze beneath the arc. Never made it. We burned it so bright it looked like a newborn star. The last 3 limped away. We let them. Fear spreads better when it walks away breathing. 20 hours later, we boarded the station. No resistance. No. It was hollow, but their files remained. Logs, records, evidence. Comes between Ashkai leaders and human names. Coordinates traded for safety. Payments made for every remnant cell betrayed. 30,000 credits on Kepler's head. 50,000 on mine. That's when it hit me. This wasn't war, it was a purge. The Conquered didn't just leave us. They sold us, fed us to the Ashkai like leftovers. We blasted those files onto every open cum in the sector. Didn't care who saw. We wanted them to. Every world, every station, every pretender who toasted. Galactic unity, they'd see its cost. They'd choke on the truth. And when the message ended, we followed with one line. Humanity lives, and we are far from done. We moved fast after that. 3 more targets and 2 weeks supply caches? Spy relays. Black market dens where former allies sold Earth's remains like curios. One place hit the deepest. A dive in low orbit around Brados 9, packed with off-worlders flaunting human dog. Tags as charms. One had Barnes's name. Another wore a braid of hair-marked souvenir from the fall. We said nothing. We slaughtered. Left one alive, a Surath trader, from a species that once praised our might and alliance. Cried, begged, pissed himself when Kepler pressed a blade to his throat. You wore our dead like jewelry, I said. He trembled, pale as bone. We're told you were extinct. I leaned closer. Now you know. And I let him crawl away, to spread the truth. Reputation was sharper than steel now, and it spread like wildfire. But no blaze lasts forever, and the galaxy started to panic. It's not from our strength, but our memory. The past we carried, the truths we bled. Their masks cracked. Worlds that once flew banners of unity now whispered of purges. Secret oaths. Old. Betrayals. Turns out they hadn't just watched us burn, they'd planned it. Then came the Intercept Deep Ashkai command chatter. Garbled, degraded, but clear enough. A summit. Not political. Gathering of those who fattened off Earth's corpse. They were coming together to contain the remnant threat. They still didn't get it. We weren't a threat. We were judgment. I stood in the Sentinel Ark's war room, eyes on the stars ahead. Kepler sharpened tools. Soldiers packed crates. Fighters prepped for war. The next move wasn't a raid. It was war not for survival, not just revenge, but for truth. We'd tear open every world that watched us die and force them to face it. They called it the Cardal Summit, named after the neutral moon hosting it. A former peace world from the old conquered days, now just another polished lie atop bones. Cardell wasn't on any charts, so that was the point. Hidden lanes, no media, just delegates, secret fleets, and enough bribes to fund a war on their own. We weren't supposed to know, but the dead speak, especially if you leave some breathing. And Vega. She'd been listening since before these cowards were born. The summit's mission was simply unite the surviving conquered species under one covert purpose: erase the remnant. Not officially, dressed in policy, caution, words like containment, threat response, and preemptive defense. But we understood. They didn't fear our guns. They feared our truth, the Bastion Theta files. Just the start. We'd ripped open a festering wound. Every silent planet, every deal inked in Ashkai blood. Every general who sold Earth's location for mercy, it was bleeding out now, and the summit's true agenda: erase us before it spread too far. Quietly, they planned to end us at Cardal finalized their playbook. Hire merc fleets, authorize black ops, We were going to torch that plan before the ink dried. Getting there wasn't easy. The moon was wrapped in cloaked defenses, scan nets, pulse mines made to atomize anything lacking a conquered signature. So we didn't arrive as one ship. Came in fragments. 2 weeks earlier, we hijacked and gutted a high-ranking Elvori envoy ship. Clean surgical Kepler's handiwork with a scalpel and Ren flying like gravity didn't apply to her. We repainted the hull, burned. The ID tags rewrote the transponder codes using ancient conquered access keys. Vega still had cached. When we reached the perimeter, the gate AI didn't even pause. Welcome, delegate of Sector 4, proceed to Docking Bay 6. That easy? I posed as the ambassador of the Terran Refuge. Lie, but one dressed up well enough that no one looked too hard. Humanity was supposed to be dead or shattered. It's a new name like Terran Refuge. Intriguing, but not threatening. So I assumed I was some isolated colony stray come to beg for relevance. Let them assume. Inside the summit, everything gleamed. Artificial sky arched above, marble floors balanced for perfect gravity, guards wrapped in gilded armor. Delegates from 20 systems sat in crescents, sipping rare liquors, calmly debating how to keep the remnant threat from going public. They spoke like academics, like lawyers, cold, precise, as if Earth had quietly ceased to exist. No screams. No genocide, just ... footnotes. My escort Nera leaned close. They won't expect you to speak. Just observe. I smiled. I'm absolutely speaking. When the moderator, a heavyset ravish with 6 eyes and a voice like a snapped cable, opened the floor, I stood. Some turned. Some chuckled. Delegate of the Terran Refuge, the moderator sneered. We were unaware your people retained diplomatic faculties. I nodded. Why? Funny, I wasn't aware you people retained the capacity for pretense. That shut them up. Cold. Real cold. I scanned them, the same species who'd once toasted us at alliance tables, shook our hands, signed treaties, then watched Earth burn. I won't waste time, I said. You're scared. A cough. The moderator shifted. We're discussing peacekeeping measures. I laughed. Sharp, ugly peace. Spat the word. Peace is what you abandoned when Earth screamed for aid and you sent condolences. Peace is what you bought when you traded our coordinates to the Ashkai to save your fleets. Peace is dead, and you helped murder it. Now they stirred. Murmurs, shifting seats. A couple delegates stood, ready to object, but then every screen. Datapad holofeed lit up. Vega hacked the summit's network. The Bastion Theta files spilled across every surface names. Logs, payoffs, military authorizations, exposed, like open arteries. An Elvari delegate jumped up, shouting, "This is a breach of protocol." I turned to him. "No, this is your eulogy." Then I gave the signal. Lekpilar, Ren, and 8 others had been inside Cardell's infrastructure for days masquerading as tech staff, guards, cleaners planting charges and killing failsafes. The second I nodded, the whole summit sealed. Blast doors slammed shut, internal shields dropped, and the Sentinel Arc decloaked in orbit. Guns zeroed not on the moon, but on the delegates' ships parked nearby. We didn't come to destroy Cardell. We came to strip it bare. We'll never leave alive, someone hissed. Not here, too. I stepped into the room's center, dropped a small beacon. Vega's voice rolled through every device, crystal clear. The remnant does not seek peace. We seek memory. And memory doesn't fade because you wish it. Not anymore. No gunfire followed. Just terror, because now the whole galaxy would see, would know. They'd tried. Ask ChatGPT. Ask ChatGPT. We pulled out 30 minutes later. Kepler triggered a chain reaction in the core that fried their long-range comes clean. Ren flew the diplomat's ship like it was stitched from shadow, threading us through the security net and back into the Ark's waiting hold. We didn't glass Cardell could've, but we didn't. We left it standing, left them alive, alive to spread what they'd seen, alive to watch their fragile alliances choke on the truth. Back on the Ark, I collapsed into the war chair, staring through the viewport at the drifting stars, one hand bruised, ribs splintered, lungs tight. I didn't feel like a liberator. I felt like a reflection. A jagged mirror of everything they tried to burn out of us, the rage, the memory, the refusal to stay buried. They made this. They left us to rot and didn't realize what that kind of rot grows into. The fallout from Cardell was immediate. Data dump didn't just spark outrage. It cut deep, surgical, targeted, bleeding every hidden betrayal into the open. The conquered wasn't unity. It wasn't peace. It was a cartel with a flag. Within 72 hours, fractures appeared. We watched from the Ark's command deck, still parked in orbit above the humiliated moon, as the galaxy started unraveling. The Alvari homeworlds issued formal denials, screamed the files were forgeries, signatures fabricated, timelines faked. But inside their ranks, the cracks widened. Riots on colony stations, soldiers leaking logs. One random engineer posted a memo confirming Earth's cries for help were Herdan shelved. The Clyran Syndicate took a softer stab, sent word requesting peace talks with us, dripping in regret and empty hands. We ignored them, couldn't build peace on ground paved with human bones. But the true shift came from a world no one expected, Sarthis Fuff. Mining planet, neutral. Populated by the Valeri. A hive-minded insectoid species, cold, logical. Out of nowhere they broke silence, their monarch. Telvin Grakatin eyes, like polished stone, appeared on every major comm channel across the sectors. We have reviewed the Earth files, he said. We find the remnant speaks truth. We'll no longer serve a galaxy that devours its own. First time since the fall, anyone stood with us publicly, and it broke the table in half. The conquered screamed treason. Ashkai threatened orbital sieges. Aleri didn't flinch. They sealed their borders, spun up their defense grid, stood defiant. They weren't alone. Within 2 weeks, 5 minor worlds renounced their treaties. 3 reactivated old remnant signals. A small moon colony built by human refugees long ago sent us a fleet not much, rusted, half-functional, ancient, but still flying, still armed, still ours. We met them in high orbit over Drevik's Ridge. 32 ships, a crew of humans, ex-malicious, defectors hiding since the fall. Leading them was an old gunship, Valor's Debt, scarred from the first orbital siege, still carrying scorch marks like medals. Its captain came through the feed 50s, missing an arm, face a roadmap of scar tissue. "Captain Marrow," he said, voice rough through static. "You called?" We answered. I stared at that flickering screen and saw it, the thing they all feared most. Fire. "Welcome back," I said. "We've got work to do." Vega ramped up production. She rebuilt orbital tracking nets, reactivated probe networks, resurrected fabrication bays to start building drones. She wasn't finished. Neither were we. The corridors inside were smooth, sterile, dead. The air stank of old power cells and sterilization chemicals, like a place that expected visitors only once every century. No guards, no drones, not yet. But we knew better. The Unity core was buried deep 7 levels down, shielded by pulse gates and encryption walls. Vega fed us a path via dead drops mapped blind spots where cameras never swept fully. Even so, we triggered a proximity trip on level 4. We heard them before we saw them, automated sentries, sleek spider-limbed constructs, legs clattering. On steel, eyes burning like pilot lights, we fought dirty. Morrow rigged the corridor with thermite charges, turned the whole passage into a furnace. 2 of the constructs melted into slag. One got through. It impaled our youngest engineer straight. Through the gut, no scream, just a gasp and a wet rattle. We burned it down with every mag round we had, but the kid was gone before he hit the floor. Kepler didn't blink. He just whispered, "We keep moving." Level 6 sealed bulkhead. Biometric locks. Meant for conquered DNA. Kepler pulled a vial from his pachygenetic key he'd built using scrap data and old blood samples from a dead conquered General Weed flayed back on Theta. He injected himself, staggered, convulsed. His skin erupted in hives, but it worked. The door opened. Level 7, the core. We stood before a sphere of glass and black alloy. Floating in a magnetic cradle, veins of light pulsing across its surface. The Unity Core AI itself, it spoke before. We touched it, a voice like polished ice. You are unauthorized. Stand down or be neutralized. We didn't stand down. Kepler moved first, jacking into the interface with a neural tap. His eyes rolled back. Immediately blood dripped from his nose. He muttered codes, cursed, screamed, then went silent. I grabbed his harness, kept him steady while the engineers ran counterhacks. Burning through every bypass Vega had prepared, the AI fought back, sent digital razors into Kepler's mind. I watched him seize foam bubbling at his mouth. But his hands never stopped typing. Finally, his voice croaked out one word. Broadcast. He slammed the relay spike into the core. Across the galaxy, every terminal, every network, every secure channel flared to life. Files, names, coordinates, video feeds of secret pacts. Payment logs for every betrayal. Footage of Earth's final broadcasts, the unanswered cries. The deals struck over our bones. The Unity Core screamed not in sound, but in light blazing like a star about to die. We ran. Morrow carried Kepler, barely breathing. The other engineer limped, arm shattered. I covered our retreat, firing at the dark as sirens finally howled to life. We reached the surface as the archive's internal collapse began. Our frigate was already lifting, Wren's voice barking through comes, "Move or die." We hauled ourselves aboard. The moon burned behind us, its vault imploding in Warda, tomb sealing itself shut forever. Kepler didn't wake up. His body did, but his mind was gone. Burned out in the fight, he just stared, hollow-eyed, a ghost in skin. But the data got out. Vega confirmed it. Every world now knew. Every liar, every coward, every collaborator was unmasked. And as we drifted back toward the Ark orbit quiet, I knew we weren't fighting to survive anymore. We were here to end it. For every name they put a price on, he rasped. For every city they watched burn and called it necessary. Morrow cracked his knuckles, still wrapped in old bandages. For Earth. The Valeri delegate Telvin himself clicked his mandibles. For the hive that remembers, Vega's voice filled the chamber, steady and full. Enemy fleet ETA. 41 hours. All combat systems online. Strategic options prepared. But I defer to human command. I stared at the tactical display, a swirling storm of red markers. Enemy fleets converging like a noose. They thought this was the end. They thought they could smother the embers we'd kept alive. They still didn't understand. We weren't embers. We were the fire. I turned to the room, to the fighters, the survivors, the ghosts who'd built themselves back into warriors. We don't just hold the line, I said. We drag them through it. Vega's engines growled beneath our feet, the Ark awakening fully, not as a relic but as a sword. We were outgunned, outnumbered. Didn't matter. This wasn't about odds. This was the reckoning. And when the first HFY cruiser blinked into the sector, we fired first. Ask ChatGPT. The Ark still flies scarred, ancient, relentless. Vega hums with a deeper voice now, more human than machine. She remembers. We all remember. Some nights I stand alone in the observation deck, staring at that scarred blue world far behind us. I wonder if it remembers us too, or if Earth has forgotten its last suns. Doesn't matter, because out here, in the dark between stars, we're still watching, still waiting. And when the galaxy forgets again, when they let the rot creep back in, when they think memory can be buried in shallow graves, we'll remind them. Humanity burns.